Hi everyone, my name is Neha Goenka. I'm the founder at CA Expert. Um, we are here today to talk about financial metrics for e-commerce companies. Um, I think just to give you a brief background, the last call we had, we discussed about how businesses can actually go on, and join the e-commerce bandwagon. And I think today what we're really trying to do is give a perspective and demystify, why some of some e-commerce companies go on to have a large number of problems. A lot of it is actually related to not understanding the financial metrics and the financial KPIs. And of course, these are then supported by operational KPIs as well. There's plenty of data, regarding all of what I'm about to say on as well. So please feel free to do your own research. And, of course, you can always get back in touch with us through the WEP portal, post this conversation. And we'd be more than happy to follow up with any more questions. So essentially, when we talk about financial KPIs, why are these KPIs really important? I think Peter Drucker said it best. If you can measure it, then you can improve it. Uh, you know, uh, Without these financial KPIs, you're essentially running around like a headless chicken. Um, I think when we talk of KPIs and operational metrics, a lot of the e-commerce platforms that you're probably already on are giving you some sort of analytics, but unfortunately, that's only half the picture, and sometimes not even that, because essentially a lot of the metrics that you're getting, these integrated e-commerce platforms and so on and so forth, they are only focusing on your profit and loss statement and metrics related to your profit and loss statement. But really, to be able to cover your business metrics and understand your financials, you need to understand your balance sheet metrics as well. Your balance sheet metrics cannot be covered by any of these larger platforms, because essentially you are not providing that data to them, so they will not have any way to track it. That data essentially you can only track, by having an efficient accounting system online, and making sure that you understand how to analyze the numbers that your business is throwing out. I'm going to quickly run through some of the business models and the revenue models that most e-commerce companies follow. And then we'll be jumping straight into, the financial metrics that you need to start tracking, perhaps literally from day one, week one, month one, or perhaps quarter one as well. Um, Essentially, there are four business models that you can use as an e-commerce company. You are either B2B, which means that you are a business selling to other businesses, something like an Amazon business. You could be B2C, which is that you're a business selling to other consumers, such as, so examples of that are Flipkart, Amazon, so on and so forth, or maybe a website that you will host and sell to, retail customers, uh, use products to sell to retail customers. C2C is essentially consumer to consumer, such as eBay or OLX or Quicker and so on and so forth. And C2B, where your consumers, where you essentially are a consumer, and you will be then providing services to businesses. So this literally applies mainly to freelance individuals, who are providing services to larger organizations through Upwork, Fiverr, so on and so forth. Now, when we talk of e-commerce, the largest sort of share of the pie of the e-commerce business is dealing in goods or products. And for that, the revenue models are actually quite widespread. Some of the main sources or ways of making money are drop shipping. You might want to read up on that. Wholesale sourcing and marketplace selling, wholesale sourcing and selling via your own website, private labeling, and of course white labeling as well. Now, when you're starting an e-commerce business, I think we all understand here, you as an entrepreneur, probably someone who's running an e-commerce business, and us as accountants who've handled e-commerce businesses, the data really, really gets ahead of you. E-commerce business is all about volume. And it's not just about volume in terms of sales, but it's also volume in terms of the data that is thrown out in your business. If you were a simple retail seller, maybe 15 years back, you probably had one shop. You had one way that customers made payments to you, which was probably, debit cards, credit cards, so on and so forth, and of course cash. And of course, you probably sourced your products, maybe from one or two or three vendors. Well, business has changed now because of technology. So you can be online. Your products can be on high seas, coming in from China. You could also be, simultaneously sourcing from local vendors. Again, vendors from across states. So your products could be on different trucks at the same time. Your customers are making payments to you through various online payment gateways, not just one. You could be using Razorpay, PayUmoney, CC Avenue, Paytm, all simultaneously. And of course, then you have logistics companies that you're dealing with. So you are selling your goods, you're shipping them, some of them are being returned. You have CODs, on and so forth. So you can just imagine the kind of data that your business is generating quite literally on a daily basis. We really do data down and understand where we are exactly going wrong. I think some of the simple metrics that we can definitely work on are probably gross profit margins, net profit margins. For some of you who may not be aware, your gross profit margin is basically an accounting formula. You derive it from your financial statements. It's revenue minus your cost of goods sold, again divided by revenue. It's basically a percentage. Again, your net profit is also all your revenue minus all your expenses minus the taxes you pay out, again divided by your total revenue, and you get your net profit margin. Now, these numbers essentially, again, only cover your profit and loss statement. But like I said earlier, you need to have a real understanding of what is really going on in your balance sheet. And one of the reasons you really need to understand what's going on in your balance sheet is because of the movement of cash. The movement of cash and your profits are actually completely different. So, for example, you make a sale today and you have booked it as a sale, but the cash may only come in 10 days later, 15 days later, or possibly even 2 months later, depending on the clearing cycle by your customer. So there you have it. You think you've made a sale. On paper, you've made a sale. On paper, it looks like you have that money in your books, but you don't actually have that money in your books. Now, this actually leads to a lot of disruptions for businesses because at sometimes, especially with e-commerce businesses, you're flushed with cash, and other times, you literally could be tapping on a line of credit, from your bank and so on and so forth. Now, these volatile, perhaps to some extent, using operational measures, you can overcome, but you really do need to keep a tab on it. And what will really help you keep a tab on it is something called a free cash flow. Now, free cash flow is essentially the cash that is left after taking into account the cash the business generates from its operations, less the capital expenditures. So in this case, a capital expenditure could be something that you're developing, or maybe a new laptop that you've purchased, and so on and so forth. And I think once you get a handle of your free cash flow, you'll actually know how much cash your business is generating. When we talk of operating cash flows, your operating cash flows actually take into account the changes in your current assets and your current liabilities. When you have a handle on your current assets and your current liabilities, you realize that cash is actually a part of your current assets. Debtors are also a part of your current assets. So while you're making sales and your debtors are going up, your cash is actually staying the same. So the contra entry for the sale that you're making, or an adjustment that for the sale you're making, balance sheet as a bump up in your current asset, but not in the current asset that you want. Right? You want your cash to go up, but actually your debtors is going up. And I think your free cash flow will help you realize, to what extent the problem actually persists, or where the problem actually is. Another metric I think that all e-commerce businesses really need, I think all businesses need to follow, and especially e-commerce businesses, is called the true break-even. Now, the standard break-even formula is, when your revenue is equal to your expenses, there, you've broken even, right? But operationally, that almost never happens, again, because of the cash flow mismatches. So how do you make your business truly self-sufficient? right? Because we don't want scenarios where you have a lot of sales on paper, but there's actually no cash in the bank, right? So you need to figure out where do you actually break even and work towards optimizing each and every variable in that equation. Now, the formula for true break even, again, we will be sharing all these formulas with you post the call, on the WEP platform. And of course, we remain available to discuss all these. The formula for true break even would be fixed expenses. Uh, to determine the true break even revenue, you would have to understand what your fixed expenses are. Also, the cash reserves, because there will be months where you will have negative cash flows. And once you understand the months in which you have the negative cash flows, you'll understand the cash reserves you actually need to maintain to overcome the problems of tightness, cash tightness in those months. Plus some basic cash. The one thing that has been completely overlooked for the last few years is risk. And I think there's one thing that COVID has highlighted for all businesses is risk. So when we talk of risk, we talk about things like COVID, where businesses shut down, and there is absolutely no way for you to, tide over this period, without having cash in the bank. And that is why when they say you need to save for a rainy day, these are the kind of scenarios we talk about, when we talk about saving for a business. Now, you need to understand that what really impacts your true break-even point is your contribution margin. Now, when you talk of contribution margin, you don't talk of gross profit margin. The contribution margin is actually different because, we consider your sales price, and we also consider all the variable expenses that are related to this sale, to the sale. So, for example, you would have freight or shipping costs when you make the sale. That is in fact not a direct cost. It's taken as an indirect cost, but you still need to consider that as a part of your variable expenses. Once again, how to calculate your contribution margin is something you should be getting in touch with your accountant and understand that once your data is recorded, try and determine what your true contribution margin is, what your total fixed expenses are, what your true break even is, where are the months where you have negative cash flows, and what sort of reserves you actually need to keep, to overcome those months. Um, some of the things that will impact your variable expenses, could be obviously the cost of purchases or the cost of production of the product that you're selling. It'll be the shipping costs of import or getting the product into your warehouse, customs duty, freight expenses, MDR or TDR charges as well. If any of you are dealing with payment gateways, then you would understand that, there would be deductions that happen on the payments you receive through these payment gateways. Obviously, commissions, if you have any commission structures, for the sales, that you have made, if you need to pay any commissions against that, all these are your variable expenses, and these will all get considered when you're trying to figure out your contribution margin. The reason I'm stressing on the contribution margin is because I think what I'm trying to tell you here and elaborate on is that contribution margin is very different from your gross profit margin. So your contribution margin, where exactly are you in terms of the profitability, basic profitability. Um, I think another thing where e-commerce companies tend to have a lot of issues are the inventory. And like I said, earlier, today, the world is literally in your hands. It's become very small. You could be importing goods from China, of course, but you could also be importing, from Italy or from US or from Brazil, and then selling those products in India. And then again, you could be selling it to multiple states in India, and within those multiple states, there will be multiple options, where customers will want to return those goods sometimes, unfortunately. So essentially, at any given point in time, you will have your products all over the place. So essentially, inventory management can truly make or break an e-commerce business. And that is why you really need to understand a couple of things regarding your inventory. One is that when you should order more, and two, how you should value your inventory. Trying to understand how you should or when you should order your inventory will really help you overcome a lot of pain as far as cash flows are concerned. And of course, no opportunity cost, because a particular product was required by a customer, but you couldn't provide it because you didn't have that inventory on you at the time. Again, you need to understand something called inventory par levels. Again, this can be calculated by, let's say, it's a very simple formula. Let's say you're selling 30 units of something a month, right? And you want to maintain a safety margin. There could be a spike in the requirement. Suddenly, people will want to buy something. Let's say you're selling high-end pens and you're selling 30 units of high-end pens every month. And let's say that, volatility in the sales, and you say that, okay, I should also have 6 pens as a safety net, because you never know, when customers will suddenly want to come to your website and buy, high-end pens. So your total requirement is, let's say, 36. Now, the number of times you can actually get those pens delivered to you is, let's say, 3 times a month, right? So now you know that those deliveries can come to you 3 times a month. So let's say 36 divided by 3, that means 12, right? So effectively, when your inventory level reaches 12 units, you know that you should be ordering another batch of pens. And if it falls below 12, you know that you might be in problem, right? So essentially, you need to understand how, how to order, or how frequently you need to order your replenishments so that sales are not impacted. I think one more thing that you really need to keep a track on is how you are valuing your inventory. And this is very standard. I'm just going to quickly mention that there, on average, or simply 3 ways to manage your inventory. There's FIFO and obviously the average cost valuation method. Again, it's up to you, which method you want to follow, but figure out a method that works for your business and stick to it. Operationally, I think one thing that e-commerce businesses tend to really focus on is the top line. They feel that the top line, if sales keep happening, automatically a lot of will get covered. A lot of the borrowings will get covered, at some point in the future. And to make those sales happen, a lot of e-commerce companies market extremely aggressively. And a lot of that marketing actually tends to happen online. And I think one of the things that you need to understand is, again, your true break-even return on ad spend, right? Or a true break-even ROAS. So again, very simply, how do you know if your ads are actually helping you even break even? It's a very simple way to calculate. We've already discussed what contribution margin is. It's your sales price minus your variable expenses per unit divided by your sales price, right? Now, once you get your contribution margin, 1 divided by your contribution margin, right, is basically your true break-even ROAS. So let's say you are selling something worth 100, and your variable expenses, on that sale is close to 30 rupees, right? So your contribution margin is 70. Now 70, contribution margin is 0.7, or 70 divided by 100. Now your true break even will be 1 divided by 0.7, which means 1.42. That means for every rupee that you spend on an ad, you should be able to generate 1.42 rupees in sales to break even, right? Now, again, this equation also has its limitations, because as some of you may have noticed, I have not taken any fixed expenses into consideration. So when you talk of breaking even, you're only breaking even at a gross level. You're not breaking even on a net level. When you break even at a net level, you would be considering all your fixed expenses and taxes and so on and so forth as well. I think another thing that most businesses really need to focus on, again, is the sales return ratio. This will be actually one of your earliest indicators that you will be in trouble, because when start coming back, not only will your sales reduce, but you will also incur costs on the reverse logistics to get the products back to your warehouse. So this is another metric or KPI that you really need to keep track on, is your sales ratio. And let me tell you, we've had customers who have underestimated their sales return ratios only to be in trouble 2 or 3 months later. So that's how much of, that's how good an indicator this ratio really is. Um, I think another metric, again related to perhaps marketing, would be the customer acquisition cost, which essentially is, your total marketing expenditure divided by the number of new customers that you've acquired. Now, by itself, the customer acquisition cost perhaps may not tell you much, but when you compare it to the customer lifetime value, right, which I'm about to explain to you right now, you will truly understand how much you should be spending to acquire a customer. Now, again, the customer lifetime value is usually, again, calculated, two or three ways. But the easiest way, to calculate customer lifetime value would be just to take an average sales revenue per customer and the lifetime frequency of interaction with your business. For example, one of the services we provide, let's say at CA Expert, is tax filing, right? Now, when someone is getting their taxes filed, they're essentially interacting with us once in a year. Now, let's say, once a customer comes to us for tax filing, hypothetically speaking, they stick with us for 20 years. So we know that, they'll be with us, the number of times they'll interact with us will be 20. And let's say, again, for tax filing, just, for the sake of calculation, every time they come to us, they pay us 1,000 rupees. So the customer lifetime value for us would be 20,000 rupees. Now, of course, you would have to probably do this across products, and so on and so forth. But you really, the main metric here is to understand the total revenue you can get from a customer across his or her lifetime. Once you compare this with your customer acquisition cost, you'll truly understand whether the amount that you're spending on acquiring a customer is actually even worth it. If you are getting 1,000 rupees from a customer, or 20,000 rupees as a customer, as the total lifetime value of a customer, and you're spending 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, you actually have a tool to understand whether that actually makes sense economically, or over the longer term. I think some of the other KPIs that you could perhaps read up about would be shopping cart abandonment rate, average order values, conversion rates, shipping metrics. Shipping metrics again are very important because it comes back to inventory management. So the number of days it takes to deliver to a customer, number of days it takes to get your payment. Now, there are a lot of third-party, logistics aggregators who will, manage your shipping. They will, in fact, get you in touch with other smaller courier services and so on and so forth, give you amazing dashboards and so on and so forth. But the days to payment could be 10 days, 15 days, and so on and so forth. So you need to understand that, if you are getting payments in about 15 days, and if you are taking a prepayment, let's say through these payment gateways that usually settle in 2 to 3 working days, then you're getting your payment in 3 days. So I think when you start comparing these metrics, you will start understanding what is actually working for you and what is not working for you. Some other website related metrics which would probably play out in the longer term would be bounce rate, page views per session. I'm so sorry. Referral sources, where is your traffic coming from? Is it coming from organic sources, inorganic sources? If it's coming through organic sources, which pages are they going on? So on and so forth. I think, hopefully I've been able to give you a few metrics that you really should be focusing on. I think one of the things that as an e-commerce company that you're tempted to do is focus on the top line, focus on sales growth, and hope that once the sales come through, everything else will get covered. But what you really should be doing as an e-commerce company is focusing on the bottom line growth. Focusing on profits first, and your cash flows. Unless you're not doing that, you will be experiencing a lot of volatility on account of cash flows and so on and so forth. And to overcome that volatility, essentially what you're going to do is tap in on your credit card, tap in on some line of credit, tap in on some sort of debt. And again, as accountants, we can only tell you that you shouldn't be tapping on debt till your business model is not optimized. Once you realize that you're not being able to cover certain expenses, you'll find a way to cut those expenses rather than borrow to make up for those expenses. It's probably a more conservative way. It definitely doesn't match up to the new age style. But in the longer run, we honestly believe that these conservative ways are the ones that are going to ensure that you're profitable and your business is sustainable. Even if you want to sell out to you still need to make it sustainable to really get the valuations that you desire. Um, I think with that, I am done with a lot of the points that I had to cover. Not sure if I can get any questions here. Anyone has any questions? Do we have any questions here? I'm going to guess there aren't too many questions here. You can always you look up at the WEP forum. We actively go through the WEP forum. If there are any questions, related to, metrics for e-commerce or just general accounting or compliance related issues regarding your e-commerce business, please raise it on the WEP platform, and we'll be more than happy to answer those queries on the WEP platform. I think with that, I am going to be closing the session. Um, I think what we can also do is that to some of the questions that you have probably put up, we'll try and give you answers as comments on FB as well. And of course, you can leave your comments there or on the WEP platform, and we'll be more than happy to address that. A lot for your time today. I hope some of the points that we raised here were helpful, and we look forward to having another session on another topic in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much.